defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show. Now I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend, and as I was telling you guys, I think it was last episode, I had my brother's wedding on August 13th, and yes, I gave the best man speech, and I did get that recorded. I was wearing a lapel mic, but then there was also there's a videographer there, and so he's going to have some video, so I don't know when the video is going to come out. So I don't know, I guess depending on how long this episode goes here, maybe I'll throw in the speech towards the end, or maybe I'll wait till next week. So we'll see on that. But anyway, yeah, it was a fantastic time. There's quite a few people there. There was like 360 people there. They were expecting a little bit more, so it was supposed to be a much bigger wedding than it was. But it's glad to see the old younger brother. He's getting married before me here. But I mean, so yeah, I'm happy for my brother, and it's good to see him tying the knot over there. So on today's show, what I really want to focus on is insider trading, and let me just start here. I have a story here. This is from fairly recent news here in the last month or so with Phil Mickelson. Now, for those of you out there who watched, PGA golf, Phil Mickelson, he's known as Lefty, because he's left-handed. And I actually like Phil Mickelson a lot. He seems like a really great guy. And actually, Phil and I have the same birthday, June 16th. But no, it doesn't. That's not what makes him a good guy, by the way. No, he just really does. He seems like this really genuine, great guy, just really nice. I mean, just from what I could tell, watching him, and just reading some of his quotes here, talking about the case, and actually it was back in 2013. Phil Mickelson took some heat from the guys at ESPN because Phil, he was wanting to move out of the Golden State in California because the taxes. Because I remember at the time, there was it was some figure. His tax rate, because of the state California taxes, which are insane, he's paying over 60% in taxes. So it's tens of millions of dollars this guy is losing, especially if you're in California. So he's thinking, hey, I might think about moving out of California. And yeah, he just took a lot of heat. Oh, Phil, you can't do that. No, you can't talk bad about paying taxes. Taxes, that's your patriotic duty, right? That's what Joe Biden says anyway. So anyway, I thought that was a bunch of crap a few years ago with Phil taking heat on that. I mean, heck, I'd be mad too, paying over 60% in taxes. But now recently, Phil came back in the news, and Phil Golf Digest, they did a little write-up on this, where Phil Mickelson was caught in an insider trading scandal. And so what happened? Basically, back in 2012 is when these trades took place. So we have, and I'm just going to really simplify this story here. So you have this sports gambling guy. He's a professional sports bettor. His name is Billy Walters. And he's buddies with Phil Mickelson, I guess. They do some business together. And apparently this Billy Walters, this sports gambler, he got inside information from the former chairman of Dean Foods. And his name is Thomas Davis. And so what we had in May in 2014, the SEC investigated Mickelson and Walters, but they never filed any charges. And then we go 1 year later, into August of 2015, the SEC, they now investigate Davis, Walters, and Mickelson again. But this time, charges didn't come immediately, but they now have them. And what just happened now, as of May 19th, the SEC released a statement saying that Mickelson needs to pay up. Because as I was saying, this sports gambling guy, Billy Walters, somehow Phil Mickelson, the professional golfer, he had this big debt with Billy Walters. And so Walters was like, hey, hey man, you need to buy Dean Foods stock. Because basically, apparently this Walters guy's been working close with this Thomas Davis forever. And he's been sneaking him, quarterly earnings reports before they came out, all that sort of stuff. So anyway, when Billy Walters was recommending this stock, after Mickelson buys it, the next day, the stock jumps 40%. And so what Mickelson did here, once he received this stock tip from the Billy Walters, Mickelson went and he loaded up his brokerage account. He bought $2.4 million worth of Dean Foods stock. And just basically a week later, so he profited $931,000. Well, what just happened on May 19th with the SEC? They go up to Phil Mickelson. They're like, hey, you got to cough up that money, those ill-gotten gains from insider trading. And so Mickelson paid back the $931,000. But then on top of that, the SEC is like, well, it's been a few years and you owe us interest of $105,000 as well. So Mickelson not just had to pay back the $931,000, he had to pay back $105,000 in interest. Now that really does bug me. I mean, insider trading being illegal bugs me too, which we're going to get to that. But with the government here, like say for you or me, we overpay in our taxes, okay? Does the government send us back like, oh yeah, here is your interest since you did overpay us and we were holding on to that money before we should have received it? No, we don't get any of that. But here's the SEC. Oh yeah, they make damn sure they're getting their interest back on their money that they should have had a few years prior. Oh man, that bugs me. That bugs the hell out of me. And so what we have in this case is there was a lawsuit filed, a civil complaint by the SEC that demands a jury trial. And so Davis and Walters, they're named as the defendants. And then Mickelson, the professional golfer, he was named as a relief defendant. They define a relief defendant as someone not accused of wrongdoing, but are named in SEC complaints for the purposes of recovering alleged ill-gotten gains in their possession for scheming perpetrated by others. Okay, so Phil's just kind of the bystander guy here. So Phil, so he's out of the picture now. He just had to pay back, just over $1 million to the SEC. And, I was kind of curious after reading this piece here with Phil Mickelson. It's like, okay, how does the SEC define insider trading? And so I looked into that, and this is what they say from their own website, sec.gov. Illegal insider trading refers generally to buying or selling a security in breach of a fiduciary duty or other relationship of trust and confidence while in possession of material, non-public information about the security. Insider trading violations may also include tipping such information, securities trading by the person tipped, and securities trading by those who misappropriate such information. Okay, yeah, so the key here is really, if you're acting on non-public information. But then there's always the bind. It's like, well, how do I know when something's really non-public information? Like if you go and do some research yourself in a stock, you're going to actual gold mines or whatever you're doing to investigate. You're going and standing in front of lines at Chipotle. It's like, yeah, I noticed that their lines have been getting shorter lately, so maybe I should short the stock because, less people are enthused about Chipotle like they used to be, stuff like that because of their food poisoning scandals, everything like that. So, information that you gather yourself, I guess that's not really public information, but that's your own investigation work. So they actually do not consider that inside information. But information from top executives, like if they're releasing, like what their sales numbers are for the month before it's public, that's considered insider trading. But it's really hard to define it. And that's really the problem with most government laws, like with the drug laws also. You're guilty until proven innocent. And with insider trading, actually, before I really jump into insider trading and why it should be legalized, let's jump to another very famous case of insider trading. Now, you guys all know this one. This is with Martha Stewart. So if I could just quickly summarize this story. So basically we have Martha Stewart in 2001. She sold all of her shares of the biotech company called Mickelson, okay? And she sold these all of her shares, and after she sold these shares, 2 days later, the stock fell 16%, okay? And the reason why the stock collapsed like that was because it was publicly announced that the FDA did not approve one of their pharmaceutical products. And so by Martha Stewart selling her shares before that news came out, she ended up avoiding a loss of close to $46,000. Okay? And at the time, the CEO of Mickelson, this guy, he was unloading shares in the company because he knew about the information. Now, what ended up happening in this case is Martha Stewart, she got this tip. It wasn't from the CEO of ImClone. Martha Stewart got this information from her stockbroker. Actually, the stockbroker also worked with the CEO of ImClone. And the broker basically said to Martha, like, hey, look, I noticed that the CEO of ImClone, this guy is unloading shares. I have no idea why it's happening, but he's unloading them. So I would recommend, Martha, that you better sell out of your position here. There's something big going on. And so Martha listened to her stockbroker, and that's what she did. Martha Stewart had no idea why she was selling. She just knew, okay, I just got to listen to my stockbroker. He must know something. Okay, so she listened to him. So they really, with this case, they could not get Martha Stewart for insider trading because technically that's not a definition of insider trading. However, during the trial, Martha Stewart was, lying about her trades and trying to cover things up. And so she ended up being charged with obstructing justice and conspiracy. And so when Martha Stewart went to prison for 5 months, federal prison, it was for those charges. It wasn't insider trading. Isn't that how the government works today too? Here they are. They think they got you for one thing. But basically what they do is they use that to set you up because they know, like, okay, well, if we can't technically get him for what we were trying to get him for, he or she is gonna slip up somewhere else, and then we can get him for that charge, So, that's how it's done in America today, and now we get back to insider trading and how it's used today. Basically, it's very vague how they use it. It's like with a lot of these government laws in general, that there is no set criteria because it's always a little bit different, and people act on the information differently. And you think about it. Say if you had inside information, and you responded in a way where you actually didn't profit from it, you actually lost money, engaging in the trade of engaging in the inside information, by you losing money. Well, actually, you didn't engage in insider trading because you didn't profit from it, or the SEC won't see it as such. But anyway, now let's get back to this idea of insider trading. Should it be legal? Well, and I've had John Tamney on my show, and the very first time I had him on, I just remember I asked him, okay, so like, John, why do you think insider trading should be legal? Because I remember seeing John Tamney on CNBC, going back into like 2011, I think, is when I saw him. And he was making the case for legalizing insider trading. And at the time, I'm like, I'd never thought about it. It's like, interesting. And basically, his argument was, well, you need to let the information that's out there, let it reflect and let it be as accurate as possible. And so if people are holding on to information, they don't want to act on it because they're afraid, this would be considered insider trading, and so they don't act on it. But if the faster people can get this information, the faster they can respond to it, and the more accurate the price is of that stock or whatever it is. Now, of course, am I arguing that the market would be perfectly efficient? No, I do not believe that. But would it be a little bit more efficient? Yes, I think it would. So now also keep in mind, the SEC, they'd actually define how there's illegal insider trading, then there's legal insider trading. And now people would respond to me like, Justin, wait, you can't legalize insider trading because, you get these guys, they're coming together. You basically have the big dogs. They're the ones who they're going to one up the little guy. At least having insider trading illegal, that helps level the playing field. Here's the problem with that. Actually, like any government laws or regulations that are supposed to make the playing field more level, no, that doesn't happen. It's actually the reverse that happens with anything. And keep in mind here, say if you're a CEO of a company and you have what their earnings were last month, and say these earnings are better than expected. And as a CEO, if you're an inside guy, you're big time, you're in the management of this company. If you're spilling out inside information about these things, and if it's in a contract, and at that point, you're most likely violating a contract or your fiduciary duties with that company. And so that comes down to, that's a civil suit with the company you're working for. But what we have done today with the government is they've made insider trading, it's a criminal act. And it's a victimless crime. Who's the victim? Okay, so you buy a stock, you got inside information. Yeah, you buy that stock. You're like Phil Mickelson. You loaded up on Dean Food stock, $2.4 million worth. And the stock goes up 40% in the next week. Well, the people who had sold that stock prior, did anybody force that guy to sell the stock? No. He sold it based on, we have no idea what that guy's situation was, or if he had been in the stock for a while, and maybe he profited out of that. Maybe he had bought it at I don't know where Dean stock's at today. I have no idea where it's at. But you have no idea what that guy's position is, basically. And so, and if he's acting on his own free will, you're not harming the guy. Okay. So if he would have held on for another week, he could have made another 40%. Well, hey, believe me, I've tried to get into some stocks and they've shot up over 100% in a month. It's like, dang it. I was trying to get into it, but it wasn't at a price I wanted. So I missed out. But that stuff happens. Okay. And with insider trading, when there's, and getting back to this idea that, there's not a victim, just like with the drug war and people using drugs, illegal drugs. Is there a victim? No. The person is harming him or herself. And so shouldn't we as a society, let people, if they want to harm themselves, we can't stop people from harming themselves at the end of the day. Right? And also, if you get this insider information, and I think I was alluding to this idea earlier, people act on that inside information differently. Like when I brought up the example, if you did buy a stock with inside information, but then the reverse happens of what you thought with that inside information, you end up losing money. Someone else actually, even though they didn't have the insider information, they ended up better than you were at the end of the day. Because we all interpret information differently. Like if I could give one simple example here. Typically, when the dollar goes down, if you look at the dollar index and you see that it's dropped for the day or overnight, you can almost assume that, the gold price will probably go up. They typically go inversely. They trade inversely of each other because a weaker dollar, the commodity prices, gold, silver, will be higher. But that's not always the case. And especially recently, there's been quite a few days where the dollar has gone up and gold has also gone up with it. So say if you somehow got inside information, that the dollar was going to fall 1% overnight. And so you went and you bought gold anticipating gold to go up because the dollar is falling. Well, as I just said, that doesn't always happen that way. Gold will rise with the dollar sometimes. So maybe you didn't benefit from that insider information at all. It's just like when you're trying to criminalize someone for driving drunk, you're criminalizing them for an act. Okay, yes, they had greater than 0.08% of alcohol in their blood. And so what does that mean? Did they actually commit a crime? Well, according to the law books, yeah, they did. But why do we consider an alcohol content of 0.08 or greater to be a crime? Because typically people with higher alcohol content, they have a better chance, a better probability of getting in a wreck. But you still haven't committed an act. You still haven't harmed anybody at that point. It's a victimless crime. And so this is the same thing with insider trading. And you have to think, at the end of the day, the government, they have limited enforcement power. They can't be everywhere. They can't enforce every law. And so if they're spending all of their time trying to focus on insider trading, trying to get those evildoers, then that's now less resources where they can actually stop actual criminals, right? And like going back to this example of driving drunk, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, that group, they keep trying to lower the legal limit. They're trying to make it so the blood alcohol content for driving is so low that it's basically, it might be a half a glass of wine and you're already spent. You're like, you're already engaged in an illegal act. You are driving drunk, which you probably won't even feel a buzz at that point. But you'd be considered a criminal. And so at that point, if the officers are pulling over people who are not criminals, how can they respond to, domestic abuse calls or, when there's armed robberies taking place? The cops are being tied up with people who aren't criminals at the end of the day. And just looking at things how they are today, in the United States, we have way too many laws as it is. We need to shrink the size of government and shrinking the number of laws. And actually, I should insert this to the discussion above of insider trading. When you guys get the chance, when I got back from Freedom Fest, I was mentioning how amazing Doug Casey and John Hunt's new book, Speculator, is. And that book, basically what the government's trying to do is they're trying to nail this guy for insider trading. And obviously, Doug Casey, John Hunt, they agree with me that insider trading should be legal anyway. But it shows the strong arm of government and how they're trying to do everything they possibly can to nail this guy, to get this guy to go broke. And the government, just like with when you watch, I'm sure many of you out there have seen it, Breaking Bad, how it's one of the guys I can't stand the most in that show is the brother-in-law to Walter White, because he's the DEA guy. And he's doing anything. I mean, he's breaking the law just so he can try to get this guy who's making this amazing meth with this really high purity to it, because he wants to stop this guy. And he's violating people's property rights. He's doing everything he possibly can to nail him. And that's what the government does. They do anything to try to get people. But and at the end of the day, now getting back to what I was just saying here, we already have way too many laws. And think about it. With all these laws out there today, the government has made all of us criminals. So now the government can pick and choose who they want to go after, who they want to make a criminal, right? There's like the famous studies have been done, and Alan Dershowitz, I think he's the Harvard professor. Well, he's the Harvard law professor. He's made the point that the average U.S. citizen, the average professional out there, so those lawyers, doctors out there, they commit on average 3 felonies a day. I mean, that's how many laws we have out there. With that, like I just said, we're all criminals. So with that power, with that discretion, yeah, the government can choose. Oh wait, he votes a certain way. Justin was talking bad about us here. Maybe we can ding him for this. Get him for that. What is this doing to society? What is this doing to us today? What is this doing to our society? Well, look at what's going on today. People have lost trust in the system, right? When people lose trust and faith in the system, that's when revolutions happen. When people see that the system there is no longer any justice out there today, that it favors, say, the politicians, or look at Hillary Clinton. People all know that she's guilty as hell. Here she is, getting off scot-free. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, we are stepping into some dangerous territory when you have the average person out there not trusting in the justice system. And on top of that, what happens when we have an economic crisis? So people already, desperate, trying to feed themselves, trying to feed their family, just trying to survive. And on top of it, they know that, the government's corrupt anyway. That sets the grounds for revolution right there. Corrupt government today. And these politicians out there, and our plethora of laws that we have out there making us all criminals, they've created the perfect storm. And when people realize, hey, that the Federal Reserve does not have things under control like they think they do, watch out. Watch out. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. I would like to direct you to my website. Go to justinmooreshow.com. More is spelled M-O-H-R. Any purchases you make through my Amazon link there, I get a small commission back. It costs you nothing extra. I just get a little bit of credit by sending you to Amazon's site. And so please help me out in that way. And you can also, donate to my show through PayPal if you want. Donate over $50 as of now, and I will send you my bonus episodes where I can save you hundreds and hundreds of dollars, traveling to Vegas, hotels. I teach you how to play blackjack. I give you stock tips that are up around 30% right now. And keep in mind, this is not inside information. This is just, and that is another point, by the way, isn't it? That here with say gold stocks, from what I know of understanding what real money is, where our economy, where I think it really is compared to what the experts think, that's led me to believe that gold is such a no-brainer trade. Now, if I didn't believe these things, it wouldn't be quite the no-brainer investment as I see it as. And so look, people who had bought the stocks I recommended, you guys are up about 30%. So good for you guys. So And this is all legal. I'm not getting any inside information from the CEOs or nothing. So that's yet another point. Like, at what point does the government know that it's insider trading, that you acted on, non-public information? They can't. And so it's all screwed up, and it gets back to this idea of just how many laws we have. And yet the answer to everything is always, we just need another regulation, another law, and everything will be fine. No, that's what we've been doing for decades now, and it's not working. It's made everything worse, right? And so anyway, guys, help me out in that way. Write a review on iTunes for my show so that can help move us up in the rankings here. And also, guys, you know what? I won't play the best man speech that I gave at my brother's wedding for this episode because we're running, a little bit long here. So maybe I'll do that next week. And anyway, guys, I just thank you guys for being here. I will talk with all you guys next week, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore signing off.